Yeah.
Okay, everybody be careful what you say. This is being recorded. Let me just start with a welcome. Thank you for coming. I assume a few more will be coming in. This is the Downtown Great Barrington Cultural District's third annual meeting. The Cultural District is designated by the Mass Cultural Council to, quote, attract artists and cultural enterprises to a defined walkable area with a concentration of cultural assets. So that's our downtown. It's there to foster cultural, business, and job development. So it's about more than just the arts. The Downtown Great Barrington Cultural District, I love this line, it's stolen from our website, is the bullseye of a much larger cultural target. Right, so here in the Berkshires, we got farms, restaurants, cultural venues, hiking trails, skiing facilities, hotels and inns, lakes and rivers, antique shops, spas, ice cream and candy stores, and other great retail. So aren't you glad you live here? Next slide, thank you. So we set a bunch of goals for ourselves about this time last year. And despite kind of a wild year, we did pretty well. And these three accomplishments rise to the top, and I'm going to talk a little about each. Next slide. So we supported individual artists. We did that primarily through Berkshire Bus, because a decision was made, right, because of COVID, artists weren't working, performers weren't working. So we sponsored Berkshire Bus specifically to provide money for the performers, so they didn't have to rely entirely on the stipends. And Gene Carr and his crew did the heavy lifting. I was at a select board meeting on Monday where Gene gave an update, and it was really, not a select board meeting, sorry, Mark's Coffee. And it really was remarkable. And if you attended any of that, you know, it was great. And I'm glad we were part of that. Next slide. We also supported individual artists through our collaboration with the other 4 cultural districts in the Berkshires for Art Week Berkshires. In the past, that was a statewide event, which was canceled because of COVID. And here in the Berkshires, the 5 cultural districts took it on. So with over 110 events in 16 communities, the collective promotion of Art Week, it helped increase the awareness of the artists and also the cultural districts. Now, the second goal, we increased the awareness of the district itself. So we did that in a variety of ways. We increased the following on our social media. An intern provided by the town helped us grow our audience by 67%. So thank you, yay, Great Barrington. Our focus on social, hold on, slow down, back up. Our focus on social media primarily is to share news from our member organizations and get it out to the public. So if you are one of our member organizations, tag us in your posts to make it easier and include us as co-hosts on your Facebook events, which is what many of our stakeholders and our members have done in the past. Now, we also promoted the districts through our website. And in year 2, we built the website with Silo Media. And last year we made changes, some of them pretty dramatic. And we're still in the process of updating it. It's a great site. It lists just about everything you could possibly want to do in Great Barrington. So next one. Our most impressive marketing achievement is the banner project. We recruited local artists, including from the high school, to put up the lamppost banners that were up as of this morning. An hour ago, they were putting up the last ones. They honors the many facets of arts and culture in downtown Great Barrington. There are a few samples here. You can see them all by wandering around Railroad Street and Main Street and looking up. Thank you to Robin Helfand of Robin's Candy, who with Neil Weber and Richard Lee coordinated and made this happen. I'll introduce the 2 of them, and Neil and Richard, in a minute. Next slide. So another major accomplishment, our steering committee expanded again this year. So thanks to these new members who bring new perspectives, new ideas, new creativity. Abby from the Berkshire Opera Festival, Neil's an art teacher at Monument, and Richard is a local graphic designer who made the mistake of telling me he's a graphic designer. So here he is. So thanks to Neil and Richard. And then we have Sally, our unpaid marketing executive. So you'll be hearing from her. We're looking to grow again in the next year. So please, if you're not on our steering committee and are interested, either email us at culturaldistrictgb@gmail.com or just let one of us know. Next slide. So I'm going to finish bragging about our past by just taking a moment to recognize a couple of steering committee members. The fabulous Karen Watkins, who served as the co-chair since the district was designated. She really led and drove us from an amorphous idea to, in her words, to become more amorphous. So congratulations, Karen, we are amorphous. She's stepping down from that role, and Seth Keys is the incoming co-chair as of now. So next year, you'll be hearing his booming voice along with mine. I'm honored to be serving for another year. So thank you, Karen and Seth, for stepping up. Also a thank you, while I've got him here, to Laura Brennan of Berkshire Regional Planning Commission and Chris Rembold, whose title is too long to mention, but he does everything else in town. I've been on a lot of boards, and this is really the easiest lifting I've had to do because they carry so much of it. So thank you both. So next slide. So here's the important part of the meeting, our goals for next year. To help member organizations connect with the district, to be more active part of our effort, to get people involved, to continue to find ways to connect with individual artists, to highlight their work. We'll serve as a convener of cultural and artistic activity in Great Barrington and help out with primarily the marketing. We want to increase the rate of audience growth and engagement through our website, our e-newsletter, and our social media accounts. We want to work with people joining our team and take advantage of their skills and interests. It's really an impressive group, and the talent in the room, the figurative room, is pretty amazing. We're going to keep working with the other cultural districts because that was really successful to present more events like Art Week. Next slide. So here's the fun part. Want to invite your feedback to learn more about how you see the cultural district should move this year. You can share thoughts in the chat or just sort of wave around and make some noise and we'll find you and talk. Comments. Oh, there are a few more people here. Comments, questions, thoughts? Anybody want to sing? We do have the head.
I don't want that.
What's that?
You don't want that.
Yes, Eric, go ahead.
So I have some questions. First of all, thank you for all the work that's going into it and the successes. I have to be reminded what the cultural district is, not geography of it, but it's not a 501c3. It's someone contacts the cultural district or the cultural district writes a check. The steering committee is steering what? So is it a unofficial entity?
Sort of. Yeah, the town.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a collaborative of the town acts as the fiscal agent, I guess. We get a grant. Our entire funding is a grant from the state, from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. The town, it goes to the town. If there are checks to be written, the steering committee as a whole approves it, and then the town writes the check. We're not technically a town committee, although we follow the rules for open meeting laws if we were. I don't know if that helps. If you want us to write you a check, we are the people to talk to.
This is usually a good time to mention that this differs from the Great Barrington Cultural Council, which is also enabled by MCC from the state level. So Matt, the local cultural councils tend to be to operate as granting organizations. They get funds from MCC and then they sub-grant those funds in small allotments to local applicants. The district, while it can sponsor something or provide funding to a project, its primary purpose is not to sub-grant money.
Okay. And so how much money does the district have? What is the potential for seeking more money that the district offers?
The first few years, it was $5,000. I think it's up to 7,500. Is that right? Which we get directly. We haven't looked into raising more. We just live within that budget. I suppose we could. And primarily we have spent it to build the website, for advertising, for Art Week, things like that, the banners. It really was unusual to give money to Berkshire Busk, although that being such a success, maybe it won't be so unusual in the future. We've looked at ourselves more as marketing than promoting event than putting on events.
So, I mean, the success to date, right, it is often an opportunity to leverage more funding. Is there, we've spent $5,000, the district, not we, you guys have spent $5,7,500 very, very well, right? Is there an opportunity to go to whoever, I don't know who it is, and say, look at what we've done with $5,000. Give us 50 and it'll be amazing. And with Berkshire Busk, there's up. And with the art, the banners and the artwork that's there, is that in the realm of possibility? Is there a source for that kind of support that the cultural district can access?
So let's do this. If Chris, you can find out whether that's allowable, and let's put that on in a very soon agenda to discuss if we want to do that. And it takes a little bit of resources to look for the money, but I imagine on our steering committee we have a fair number of fundraisers with those skills. So,
can I add to that?
Yeah.
I want to narrow down on that because I was also on the virtual coffee Wednesday. Would we, and maybe you and Chris together can answer this, or we can explore it. Would we qualify for one of those buckets for either the LRRP projects or for the ARPA projects? The buckets that we were talking about on Wednesday.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very possible. Hi, it's Chris. And Laura, you can back me up on this. So we're not a 501c3, we're a town entity. So that makes us eligible for a lot of things, not everything, which is great. As Ed said, we've lived within the budget. And I guess that has kept us within our actual capacity to do things. We're all volunteers except Laura Wiley and I. And we have other things going on as well. So this committee, this steering committee, has determined what it can accomplish, both with the people and the funds available, and it's done great things. I think, as Ed said, we can put this on the agenda, and if there's more we want to accomplish, we can go out and try to raise the funds. We're just at the end of what's called the Local Rapid Recovery Project, which we worked on with Wiley and Laura. And I think, Eric, you were in a few of those early meetings last spring. And that was a state initiative to work with downtowns, to survey businesses, survey people in the downtown area to figure out what could be done, what projects could be undertaken relatively quickly to support downtown businesses, to get their feet back under them, to get people back downtown, to get foot traffic going. So in the springtime, we had a few meetings, we did a few surveys to figure out what happened during COVID as best we could, and to solicit ideas for projects that state, local, or other funds could come in and get done relatively quickly. So over the last 2-3 months, Wiley, Laura, and I have been going through that data and fleshing out the projects that people proposed. There may be some projects in there, sculpture downtown, invigorating the alleyways, things like that, that this district could raise money to do. So that's a good example of what we could be doing.
One thing, I did that awful thing one does when you make a list of people to thank. I forgot Wiley. who are the sort of newest member of our staff, who has really been holding things together. So thank you. I would love to put this on an early agenda to talk about, are there projects people want to do, and from there go to, can we raise the money, and then will we be burdening our staff by doing that? There's one comment in the chat. I just wanted to, Sandy talked about Berkshire Busk. It will absolutely be done again next year. Gene did a lot of surveying, which he's still tabulating. He's already got ideas to change it and make it better and deal with some of the issues he bumped into. But it was wildly successful. So thank you for that, Sandy. Anything else? Anyone else?
And Gene has agreed to do it next year. He was on the fence for a while, but he will be doing Berkshire Busk. He's committed to that.
Because what else is he going to do with his summer?
Yeah.
So our next steering committee meeting is October 21st. And we can definitely talk about moving forward with either steps that we can do to move LRRP projects forward as a group of volunteers and staff, and or ways that we could seek funding to support those projects. And that may, as Chris mentioned, and Ed, I guess, cautioned, it's all a matter of how much of that can we add to our FY22 workload. But I think that, BRPC can also support, that work in addition to the things that we do directly for the cultural district.
I'll just, before you go, before you talk, Eric, as I said, the meetings are open to the public, so you're welcome to attend that one and nudge us. Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, I was just wondering if there's a way that the cultural district, as a collaborative organization, can also assist existing organizations by having the district, that make them eligible for funds that could be used for the district. So Berkshire Busk, for example, is not a 501c3. They utilize the one on
Nonprofit.
Yeah. So is there a way that the nonprofit center can utilize the cultural district, the entity of it, the existence of it, to make itself eligible for funds? So can Gene drive the process, for example, for raising money for Berkshire Busk? I'm just using that as an example, right? And be the applicant via the cultural district. So in other words, is there a way in which you utilize the individual partners or the individual entities as part of the cultural district to the cultural district can serve a purpose? So in other words, you might see something that's, I'm just throwing this out, $200,000 for a live performance in downtown is something that wants to be pursued, right? And it's an exhausting grant. And you're like, oh, we've got $7,500, we're all volunteers, we can't do that. Can you go to Gene and say, hey, if you're interested in doing this, and make the nonprofit center the applicant, we're 100% behind you. In other words, it's not that there's a lot more capacity to seek the funding if you think of it as not just the 5 or 6 people on the steering committee, but the 28 partners who are interested in it and might be willing to do the work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a way in which the Mahaley, right, as a nonprofit 501c3, right, may not be eligible for a grant that only a public entity is eligible for, right? But they can say, we're going to do something to bring our performers out into the streets because of COVID. I'm making this up, obviously. But they're not eligible as the nonprofit, right? But it would be, the cultural district would be eligible and can then serve as a way of steering the funding towards something like that. So I think that it might be beneficial to sort of open the way of thinking about the collaboration that is the cultural district.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's great. That's one reason why we're here and we exist, is that we can network with each other and figure out how to do things like that.
Certainly, I'll just add here is that if you're aware of some funding that you have seen somewhere that you think might be appropriate for this, it's, it sounds like the cultural district is sending it to us, because half of the job of grant writing and management is sometimes just finding the grants. So if you're certainly aware of something and there's a deadline, of course, that with longer lead time, the better. That can bring it to put it on the agenda for discussion.
Now we're counting on you, Eric, to find us $200,000 for an outdoor performance. Thanks.
Wiley just stated better than I did what I'm trying to seek from, I guess, the ARPA, the LRRP. I participated in those calls, and I understand that that's exploratory for future projects. Now, on November 1st, we're having this town meeting to discuss, Chris, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but ARPA. So those are sort of mid to long range, up to 3 years. There's some deadlines by which it has to be spent. But if we, as the cultural district, have an idea about some projects that we'd like to do, again, I have to defer to the two of you, is the process that we write something up and then we submit it so that on November 1st, we can discuss it, or after November 1st, maybe we join in on that meeting. I need some clarification, because that is a big bucket. We just got $2-point-something million.
It's big for the cultural district. It's not very big for the town, but
Right.
it's a great opportunity.
It's happening.
ARPA funds are the federal coronavirus, that's the American Rescue Plan Act.
Okay.
And it's eligible for certain areas. Certain areas are pretty broad. As long as it addresses the impacts caused by the pandemic in some way, shape, or form, for households, for families, if we're doing infrastructure. The town doesn't yet know what that process is, Robin, so
Yeah.
stay tuned.
But if we were to appear, sorry, go ahead.
On the first, we're really inviting the public to talk about the process. So you won't have to have ideas ready then. We're going to talk, do we want to do surveys? Do we want to throw out ideas at
Okay.
meetings? So there's still time.
Yeah, I want to add here that I think what we're talking about is very much what the cultural district whole concept is about, which is about acting as a central facilitator, getting groups of people in the room who wouldn't normally be in the room together, like retail and performing arts nonprofits and land use, Riverwalk. So it's getting these ideas together and then figuring out, and particularly with the support of the town, which is super supportive and flexible, and also having Wiley and Laura's help, figuring out a way to make them happen. But it's a great place to bring ideas into the room and say, oh, I heard about this sort of a grant or this kind of a program, and make connections between groups that wouldn't otherwise be connected. So this is exactly the kind of thing that we want to have happen.
Is the cultural district on a mailing list, I mean, of public funding options that are available out there? I mean, does that come across the inbox? The state announces these 18 different grant programs, and is there a person who sort of kind of says, well, the town of Great Barrington isn't interested in giving free ice cream to everyone in the community for the next 3 weeks, but maybe this person is, and it's steered to that person. Is there that conceptually that's possible?
To answer that, it's sort of a collective effort. We're all looking, I would say Wiley, myself, and Chris are always looking, especially at programs that are coming out through state agencies of all types. And whenever we think that they are going to be potentially meaningful for the stakeholders of the district, meaning all the businesses within our the downtown area, then we put those in the cultural district e-newsletter. We might post about them on the cultural district social media accounts. And when perhaps I'll see something that I think Chris and the town specifically ought to be looking at, but maybe there's a cultural district element to that opportunity, then we have those conversations. So I would, I think the answer is yes, we're definitely looking and considering options as they come through to us. And for Wiley and I especially, it is part of our day-to-day work to be looking at grant opportunities and trying to forward them to people that we think they're a good fit for.
Thank you, Laura.
Anyone have anything else?
But that said, don't assume we saw something that you did. So please forward it to us if you think we should be looking at.
I don't look for grants anymore, but I know that there are resources for it.
You want to throw up the last slide with the goodbye and thank you and
Sure.
just the names of the steering committee members. But so thank you. Our next meeting is October 21st. Is that right?
That's correct.
At 9 o'clock.
And before we go,
yeah.
Can we invite people to take pictures of the slides if their cultural institution is represented, of the banners rather, and if they post it on social media to tag the cultural district? And I just want to give a shout out to the members of the committee, the banner committee, and Wiley and Sally and everyone who contributed to making this happen. It's been an awesome project and it's really looking terrific. So now it's time, Karen, to come downtown and see all of them. They are up. Okay. And we will be appearing on WSBS on Thursday, the 21st of October at 9:15. Neil will have one of the artists. Sally was very instrumental in getting that all set up. Chris will be on the call. I'll be there in person. So I just wanted to mention that it will conflict a little bit. Laura's going to look at her schedule to see if we can shift maybe that next meeting on the 21st. But that's happening. And also tangentially related, Neil was not able to be here this morning, but wanted me to let everyone know the downtown artists will be back. The students will be back the next day, the 22nd, to do their window art. They'll be painting and posting the art in the windows. So come out and say thank you to them.
Great. Thank you. A final thank you to Karen for getting us here, and to Seth for continuing.
Thank you, Seth.
Sure.
And Ed.
Could steering committee members stay on when we wrap up just for a moment?
All right.
Thanks.
So thank you. See you all during the year and then next year.